One thing that is seriously difficult in horror cinema these days is to actually shock your audience, because, quite frankly, everything's been done and a lot of it's been done with a remix. So, how do you do that? You've got to do something unexpected and out of the bag. So, I am Sean Ferrick for What Culture Horror, and here are 10 horror movies with the most shocking monster reveals. Number 10, Jason Voorhees' Friday the 13th. Now this might be cheating, as Jason is technically the monster in every subsequent Friday the 13th movie, but it cannot be denied just how awesome the moment where he first reveals himself is. After surviving her deadly stay at Camp Crystal Lake by defeating the psychopathic Pamela Voorhees, Alice Hardy floats out into the middle of water on a boat, exhausted. When she wakes up the next morning, the cops have arrived on the scene and she's finally safe, or so she thinks. Just as Alice comes to, a grossly decaying body emerges out of the lake behind her, wrapping a gruesome arm around the young woman and dragging her under. This is the big screen debut of Jason, wait till you see me in a hockey mask, Voorhees. Pamela's son, whose supposed death was what turned her into the knife-wielding murderer, would of course go on to become one of horror cinema's biggest icons, but here he is in his primordial, most zombie-like form here. Still, the movement has gone down in history for a reason. It's historic, it's horrifying, and it will make you think twice before ever going canoeing in a tranquil-looking woodland lake. Number 9. The Parasites, Cloverfield. When talking about big monster reveals in the 2008 movie Cloverfield, the obvious choice would be to discuss the moment cameras first catch a good glimpse of the massive alien creature destroying New York City. But enough has been written about old Clover over the years, it's time to talk about his friends. In news footage of the attack, mysterious small creatures are seen dropping off Clover's back and attacking passers-by. The audience doesn't see much of these things until the heroes of the movie head into the subway. While Rob, Lily, Hood, and Marlena are in the tunnels, they encounter these so-called parasites, which turn out to be vicious spider-like beings about the same size as they are. The humans eventually fight the parasites off, but not before Marlena gets bitten by one, which was really the last thing anything needed at this point. These spindly suckers serve as the perfect foil to the gigantic menacing Clover. They're small, agile, and can hide in dark places, bringing a new dimension of terror to this already horrendous situation. Hopefully the army had a giant flip-flop to deal with them. Number 8. The Skull Bear Annihilation. What would you do if weird glowing domes suddenly appeared out of nowhere? If you answered, go in and poke around, then A, you're a maniac, and B, you'd fit right in with the characters of this 2018 sci-fi horror. Natalie Portman's Lena leads a team of scientists and soldiers on an expedition into the Shimmer, a scientific anomaly caused by a meteor strike some years earlier. Whilst inside the Shimmer, the group finds that any living thing that stays there long enough is mutated into something new. It's bad news for Cassie, whose mind ends up implanted inside a disfigured bear. The Skull Bear, so named so because of its skinless head, finds the team after they've been tied to some chairs, which is really bad news for them. As if the creature's appearance wasn't bad enough, its roars have been replaced with Cassie's dying screams, which is just about the worst thing that's ever happened, ever. The Skull Bear quickly became the prevailing symbol of annihilation, and with good reason. Its reveal is both viscerally horrible and psychologically distressing, a bad combo for anyone looking to get a good night's sleep. Number 7. The Pale Lady, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Cinematically, there's nothing special about the way the Pale Lady is introduced in the 2019 movie Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This one is all about the design of the lady herself. Based on the popular book series of the same name, Scary Stories focuses on a group of teenagers who discover a collection of horror tales in a supposedly haunted house. Sounds like fun! Until new stories begin to appear on the pages, before then unfolding into real life. In one yarn, a character named Chuck becomes the protagonist of a story where his worst nightmares come to life. This includes the Pale Lady, and boy is she a sight to behold. Bloated and swollen beyond recognition with pasty white skin and a sadistic grin, the lady is as mesmerizing as she is disturbing. In the books, she is a more friendly spirit, but not in the movie. Here, she ruthlessly toys with Chuck before absorbing him into her hideous form. Though she's only revealed by a simple pan up her body, the Pale Lady is so memorable that she's earned a spot on this list. Number 6. The Final Spawn, The Deadly Spawn. Famously made for a reported sum of just $25,000 in 1983, The Deadly Spawn has earned a cult following despite falling relatively flat upon its release. A meteor brings a ravenous worm-like creature to Earth, which then takes refuge in a nearby basement. As well as not paying any rent, the alien then proceeds to unleash its equally hungry offspring on the town, prompting a gory battle between humans and their extraterrestrial foes. A group of ragtag teens end up killing the initial alien while the rest of the town takes care of its offspring. With the alien threat fully contained, everyone sits down to have a well-earned cup of tea. What's that ominous rumbling in the distance? It turns out that the town missed one of the spawn, which bursts out of the ground to reveal that it has grown to a truly gargantuan size. This is the very final scene in the movie, as audiences are left wondering how their comrades will deal with such a big monster. A great twist that nobody saw coming, the ending of the deadly spawn also doubles as one of the very best movie monster reveals. Number 5. Mother, the Ritual. Between movies like this and Midsummer, it's concerning that people still live in Sweden or choose to visit there. Love you, Sweden. Much like Florence Pugh and her pals, the protagonists of The Ritual also fall foul of a woodland cult whilst holidaying in the Scandinavian country. The cult worships a mythical beast called a Jotun that grants them eternal life in exchange for human sacrifices, which might seem like a good deal, but just wait till you read the small print. The creature, which is called Mudder, the Swedish word for mother, is first hinted at when it stalks the tourists earlier in the film. The full extent of this child of Loki is revealed when survivor Luke sets the cultists' village on fire, providing an epic backlight for Mudder's big moment. A huge quadruped with bony spines, massive antlers, a pair of human-like arms protruding from its jaw, Mudder is a sight to behold and only gets more frightening when it chases after Luke during the film's climactic finale. Though not as grim as other monsters on this list, Mudder is stunningly realised as a creative vision and another reason to maybe have a look at Norway instead. Number 4. The Moon Spiders, Apollo 18. In real life, the Apollo 18 moon mission was cancelled after the astronauts aboard Apollo 13 nearly lost their lives. The film from 2011 imagines what might have happened had the craft made the journey. Giant spiders, that's not what happened. The astronauts on the fictional Apollo 18 trip are told they are delivering a secret cargo to the moon. They think it's a weapon to stop the Russians, but it's actually for a much more dangerous adversary. Whilst exploring the surface of Earth's satellite, the two astronauts discover a new species that can disguise themselves to look like moon rocks. When not in hiding, they take on the form of gigantic spiders, and they are not pleased about being disturbed. The Moon Spiders, which would be a great name for a band, eventually catch up with the spacemen, forcing their way inside the helmet of one of them in a particularly unpleasant death scene. All of this plays out in a found footage style, placing the audience at the center of the action. Is this why humanity has never returned to the moon? Well, no, the real answer is budget cuts. But, this would also be a good reason not to go back. Number 3, Bile Basket Case. In one sense, 1982's Basket Case is the touching story of a man who goes to extreme lengths to provide for his unconventional family. In another sense, it's about a murderous blob that lives in a box. Dwayne Bradley lives with a wicker basket in his room, a wicker basket containing some sort of creature that eats meat and only communicates with Dwayne telepathically. He takes his basket to a doctor named Needleman, but when he doesn't get the answers he wants, Dwayne decides to introduce the good doctor to what lives inside. Meet Bile, Dwayne's brother, who was once conjoined to him. Now, Bile exists as a mass of flesh with soulless black eyes, stumpy arms with sharp claws at the end, and a mouthful of sharp teeth. Let's just say his social skills are far from perfect. Bile kills the doctor by viciously disemboweling him, letting everyone know that this shonky piece of 80s practical effects is not to be messed with. The contents of the basket are so well hidden that Bile's first appearance comes completely out of left field. Number 2, the Wendigo, Antlers. In Algonquian Native American folklore, a Wendigo is an evil spirit. When it possesses a human, transforms them into a bloodthirsty husk of their former self with a taste for human flesh. In 2021's Antlers, a Wendigo that's pretty much that, just has antlers. Julia is a schoolteacher worried that one of her students, Lucas, is being abused at home. The truth is much worse than that. Lucas's father, Frank, has been taken by a Wendigo spirit and is slowly transforming. After killing Lucas's principal, Frank's metamorphosis is turbocharged so that when Julia eventually finds him, he is warped beyond recognition. Following the sounds of eating in a darkened mine, Julia shines a light on Frank, or the being once known as Frank. Now he's a bloody mess, skin hanging off his face and gnarly antlers bursting from his ruptured skull. This is a creature of pure evil, and Julia just pissed it off royally. Bad move, Julia. Antlers does such a great job at drawing in the Wendigo's first appearance that by the time you first see it, you are ensnared by its savage beauty. Number 1, Gabriel, Malignant. Madison is just an ordinary gal living an ordinary life. That is until her violent dreams start coming to life. After doing some digging, Madison finds out that she's actually called Emily and was adopted at a young age. It is also revealed that she shares her body with another tenant, her parasitic twin, Gabriel. Formed as a result of two embryos not splitting correctly in the womb, Gabriel once fully protruded out of Madison's back, but surgery removed most of his extremities. His brain remained, however, and when Madison finds herself under attack in prison, he takes over. Madison pulls open the back of her head to reveal Gabriel's malformed face in amongst the gore, as the rest of the inmates scream in horror. This isn't your typical horror body transformation. This is an entirely separate person emerging from someone else, and it's gloriously grim. Gabriel then proceeds to brutally kill everyone using Madison's body, because of course he does.